Hi, everybody watching at home. This is Phoenix, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about the symbol of the phoenix and what it means, more importantly. So, there's a few different versions of the phoenix, but the basic idea, symbolically, is that there's this bird that lives for about 1,000 years. In some cultures, it's 500. Some cultures, I believe, it goes up to 10,000. But more or less, generally, it's around 1,000 years. There's this one bird made of fire, okay? And it is both masculine and feminine, okay? Or at least from my understanding, it's not truly established which gender it is, so one would assume that it is both, okay? Even though fire is generally associated with masculine, okay? And this phoenix, over the course of its life, it collects trinkets and mementos and various things for its nest, and it builds its little home out of all these different life moments and experiences, these things that it collects along the way. And then after 1,000 year period, or 10,000 or 500, depending, the phoenix, in most cases, it perishes, it turns to ash, and then out of those ashes is reborn a new phoenix to live on again, to build a new home somewhere, collecting new twigs and berries. All right. In the Greek version of this story, and I haven't done any research prior, and I originally researched on the phoenix so long ago, so I don't remember exactly where it came from. To me, formalities aside, the only thing that really matters to me is understanding the symbol itself. But in the Greek version, I remember this because it was just a little bit weird and quirky to me. They believe that after like 1,000 years, the phoenix dies. It doesn't turn to ash, but it just dies. And then this worm from the right thigh of the phoenix starts to come out. And then that worm turns into the new phoenix, which is a little bit different. Maybe even a little bit weird, a little bit less cool, but that's okay. And the basic idea is overall that the symbol of the phoenix, it represents death and rebirth. It represents regeneration, okay? Completing your cycle. Because we're all in our cycle. We're all born. We all, at some point in our lives, our bodies at least, dysfunction, and we call that death. So we all die. But from that death, from that decay, new things will grow. And even all the cells in my body, it's made up of stuff that I eat in part, and a lot of what I eat, it comes from the earth, the same earth that many ancestors and the same earth that many life forms before me has gone back to, dust to dust. It's the same earth that I'm consuming, that dust of previous life forms, which all came from stardust, is what is indeed making me and helping to maintain, if not restore, my physical vessel, okay? So we are on this life cycle of death and rebirth, whether you want to, whether you believe in reincarnation, whether you think we die and that's it. It's like I personally steer towards being open to reincarnation, just because, every topic in the world has 1,000 different opinions on it. But you really just got to look through those opinions yourself. There's, in some cases, testimonies, and make of it what you will, whatever rings true according to your intuition. And personally, with my research into out of body experiences, or OBEs, or NDEs, near death experiences, post death experiences, okay, where people have died and come back, even cases where children remember vividly details of people in their ancestry before them, or maybe a totally different lineage. But they remember vividly where these people lived, what the houses looked like, the names of the pets, and everybody that was there, and what they would do. And then they visit the place, and they're like, wow, there's actually everything the 6-year-old or 3-year-old is talking about is actually really what's going on. And it's like, did a person die in that family and was literally reincarnated? So, at the end of the day, it's hard to prove certain things in this world, especially when we get metaphysical. But if you do believe, or if you're open to the possibility that, there is such a thing as reincarnation, and that's very much the phoenix, okay? Now, I chose the name Phoenix as a symbol of evolution, adaptation, constant death and rebirth, rising out of the ashes of your previous phase of life, stronger, wiser, because that's kind of in effect what I did when I was 12, 13 years old. My dad came back into my life when I was 11 after leaving for a number of years. And after a year of seeing him again, and I used to go to self-defense lessons with my grandpa and my cousin and him from that side of the family. It was kind of just getting integrated. After a year, I decided when he asked me, Jamie, would you like to stay with me? I said, sure. You've got the computer and the internet, and any question I have, because I loved asking questions and learning things, any question I have to ask, the internet has all the answers, and there's Photoshop, and I can be creative. Whereas with my mother, it's just there was no way to really get that information. We didn't have the internet. My mother didn't have all the answers, and learning really appealed to me. So I said yes, I'd love to move in, and I moved in with him. And within the same weeks after, or like within a month after I moved in, like I had this friend named Johnny, Scottish fella, and he passed on. And yeah, it was like, the only friend I had, like suddenly he just died, just disappeared out of my life. And besides that, I'd already been completely uprooted from my previous established way of living. And now I'm suddenly living in a strange environment with this man who's just come back into my life. And I've only caught up with every now and then over the year, like every week. So it was a big turning point for me, and it was like a new beginning. It was like a death and rebirth phase, like especially after losing my friend. So I came up with a quote, because since then, like around that's the point where I came up with my first affirmation, and they just keep affirming until it's integrated. And since then, I've always had different affirmations to match, whatever's going on in my life at the time and whatever I needed just to see me through. Because totems. Or affirmations, because totems are literally just symbols that affirm something to you. They affirm a meaning, a message, an intention, some kind of essence that empowers you, boons you. That's a totem. But a totem is literally just an affirmation in a symbol form. And in that sense, if you write an affirmation, even that you could use as a totem. But the idea is that these affirmations, they do empower you. And the first one I came up with, after all of that happened with my friend, moving in with my dad, totally new beginning, the first affirmation I came up with was, every day I die and every day I'm born a new person. Who will I be tomorrow? Every day I die, every day I'm born a new person. Who will I be tomorrow? Which I didn't really understand the profoundness of at that point, potentially. Because potentially, that statement's very profound. Like it could, if anyone's seen Dark City, or movies like that, you have an idea of how profound that statement might be. That was one of my first ones, and it was around that time that I chose the name Phoenix, because it represented death and rebirth and going through utter chaos, and out of that chaos, out of that fire, establishing and developing, erecting some kind of order in its place. It's very much what we're seeing with the world now, and what's happening is very much, apparently how Illuminati powers that be operate, is through creating new levels of order, so new order out of chaos. And right now we see a world in chaos, and we see a new world order emerging quite explicitly. Really, there's no need to pussyfoot about it or featherfoot about it when it's quite obvious. If you just look at the UN NWO website, you know what I'm saying. So that's the idea, that we go through these points in life, whether it's a complete break in your scene and going to something so foreign and different, whether it's a change in home or relationship, moving to another country or job, whatever it is, it can be jolting when we're going in these new environments. And when you do move to a very different environment, it kind of requires a certain level of, not necessarily sacrifice, but an allowance to allow certain things that were relevant to uphold within yourself when you were in these previous environments. But now you're in this new place, it's not as relevant, it's not as useful. And sometimes things that used to help progress you in the past when you were in these environments might actually now hinder you and take you backward and act as an obstacle in the current environment. And it's good to be aware. It's good to be aware of where you are now and your surroundings, your environment, your intention on, okay, this is my space I've got. So it's like if you're a farmer, you want to go planting stuff that's not going to grow in the shade. You want to go planting that in the section where it's completely exposed to sunlight. You know what I mean? You would plant according to the environment in which you're at. So you can choose what environment you want, and you can choose that environment based around your intention, and then go to that place that's going to enable you to best plant your seeds to fulfill your intention. Or sometimes life does thrust us into situations, environments, certain contexts, certain phases that we didn't wholly choose ourselves, and sometimes we have no control over, it seems. And so we must do the best we can with the cards that are dealt in these environments. And in that case, it's good to kind of channel into the totem, or the symbolic power and meaning of the phoenix, just to be like, okay, I'm in a new environment. It's a bit uncomfortable. There's parts of me that relied on these things in the past that's no longer present. That's okay, and it's okay. I might feel a bit of discomfort or fear about that, and then allowing that just to fade away. It's not even, you don't have to willingly try to make anything fade away, or things that aren't useful to like untangle and get rid of baggage. Anything like that doesn't typically require work. Generally, when we have these kind of things within us, these complexes, these baggage, these problems, a lot of it is stuff that is kept inside, and it's kept inside behind all these doors and these walls and these layers that we've put up to containing vulnerability and containing all those traumas and those pains, and we put these things up to protect ourselves. And really, there is a bit of work that it needs to be done in becoming aware of those walls, becoming aware of those doors that are blocking out the awareness and the light of our love and awareness and acceptance. We need to open up those rooms of dissonance, those rooms of feeling removed, and in the dark. We need to open them up and shine the light in and become aware of those rooms. But the thing is that, all you need to do is identify where the room is. All you need to do is identify where you've put up a wall. And then just sneeze it away. Excusez-moi. And then just open the door and like work on being in the right space or with the right people, or allowing yourself to adapt and find a centeredness within yourself, where you can, once you've got the wall down basically, and this is just by becoming aware of it and finding a space where you can be vulnerable, and let that door of resistance open, so you're no longer resisting this awareness of these certain aspects of what's happened to you in the past or whatever's inside. Then it's just a matter of allowing the light of understanding and acknowledgement and acceptance, maybe, to enter that room within yourself that you've just opened. You don't have to work at that part. All you got to work at is literally removing the stuff that's in the way, removing the blockages and the blockade, and let the light shine in, and then it will just naturally aid you, and you don't have to do a thing. Okay, and that's kind of like how it is with the phoenix. Like, you have to work at the phoenix is two parts. There's destruction and creation, just like Shiva, right? And life is very much this. If you're looking at God as a title, okay, as generator, operator, destroyer, or dissolver, then you realize, okay, so God is the operator between generation and dissolution, or creation, destruction. And God enacts its influence, its will, through generation, through creation, through destruction. It's very much like a shovel, okay? The idea of a shovel, the symbol of a shovel, or a spade, that they used to, the Chinese, I believe, or Vietnamese, would be putting these cards, the spade cards, on the soldiers that they killed or who died in their war. And these represent passage to the other side, represent transformation, because a spade, very much like the phoenix, embodies the qualities both of creation and destruction at the same time. Because think about what a spade does for a moment. On one hand, it creates a hole, so it's destructive. It's breaking into the previously formed ground, so the previous form. It's breaking into that and creating this ditch of negatory void. But then it's also at the same time building this mountain that's reaching to the heavens whilst digging a pit to the hell. And that's kind of like the very yin yang dynamic of life and death, creation, destruction. Even the Thanatos principle comes into this, where some people steer more towards the Thanatos aspect, or the Thanatos principle, which they named Thanos after, Avengers, because Thanatos is just literally that element of people that leans towards being destructive, that focuses more on what needs to be torn away, what needs to be broken apart, for better or worse. For better or worse, because improvement by deduction is a thing. You know, breaking something down so that you can rebuild something. And you think about how we do that with everything, whether we're renovating a house, whether we're trying to establish a new world order. It's always most efficient to break it down and rebuild. It seems. But with that said, just because it's efficient, it doesn't mean it's the most wholesome way to do it or the most environmentally friendly way to do it. You know, it's a lot of waste of resources when just knocking down building, knocking down building. But then it might take longer if you're going to hire people to build around the existing framework. You know what I mean? So then you're using more petrol, more labor time and driving to the site back and forwards of people. So at the end of the day, it's hard. But that's not the point. The point is this bad boy, and life literally just being, you know, kind of like I said, the operator of God. It functions through life and death, and just like the spade, it digs a hole, it creates this mountain. And we all have these principles inside us of being creative and resurrecting, stronger, wiser, and also of, you know, we have our winter season, not always a summer season, but this winter where it's more about, or even autumn, and it's more about letting those leaves kind of just fall away. And all of these stages are necessary. You know, you need your cup to be emptied so that you can then appreciate it when you have your cup refilled, so you can have it refilled in the first place. You know what I'm saying? And really just being aware of this, that life is a constant ebb and flow, flux and static, where it will be everything happening at once, and then it'll be nothing and vacuumous. And it's constantly on, constantly off, constantly cold, constantly hot. Okay, I got that kind of mixed up, but you get the idea that, you know, one season you're gaining and one season you've lost, but that's a part of a natural cycle as that wheel turns. And the idea is to, any time that you're in a situation where you feel that you've drawn the short straw and that you're at a loss, okay, try to find the silver lining and figure out how can you actually capitalize from that. How can you turn that loss into a gain? It's not even a matter of how to turn that loss into a gain. I mean, every action has an equal and opposing reaction. Okay, so every time you've lost something, yeah, there's an equal. So there's another thing where it could get worse and you could lose more, and that could be the new trend. But there's also another action that can follow where you change that trend of loss and you start gaining. Both possibilities are already existing. They're both already there as possibilities. You don't need to create that possibility. It's just a matter of how your awareness is oriented, how your intention is focused. If you're aware and you have the intention to actually improve your life choices, so you can thus improve your life, if you're aware and you have that intention, then you're going to probably more often than not move towards either the negative reaction or the same reaction that you want, that's going to be taking you to better places. You know, like I said, equal and opposing reaction. If there's something bad happening, there's got to be something good that can come out of it. You just got to figure out what that is, where it is, what it looks like. And you got to do that by being aware in the first place, having your eyes open and having a want for things to improve. Some people get caught in this cycle. One half of the cycle, it's just like the constant struggle, constant loss, sacrifice, martyr, and victimhood. And they don't allow themselves to regenerate enough every time they throw themselves into the fire and get burned down and reduced down again. And they end up just being diminished after a while of doing this, because you're descending more than you're ascending, and you're not maintaining that balance. You keep running with the equal and opposing reaction. You keep running with the one that says more negative, more negative, more negative. You know what I mean? When every action you take, it's like a fork, and you have the choice to make it worse, to make things better. Sometimes it's a shitty situation, and you might not be obvious to you. You might be so down there after jumping in the flames repeatedly, and taking so many bad turns, so many left turns, that even the two options, the equal and the opposing, right, aren't fantastic. But there will be one of those, the opposing one, perhaps, where it is an improvement. It's less bad. And until you start moving out of that hole and you're at ground level, then every action you make will either take you down or go down this forked road and take you up. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the nature of reality. It's the nature of everything. Like, while one cup is filling, somewhere in the world, there's a price and a toll being paid for that gain. So there is a cup emptying whilst one cup fills. Whilst you're, as a gardener of life, in your reality, focusing your intention and watering whatever it is you're growing in your world, whatever your relationships, your projects, whatever, whilst you're feeding that, all the things behind you that you're not feeding start to wither away. So as these are growing, things are withering. And this is the nature of the Phoenix. And we as Phoenix, I as Phoenix, I chose the name at 13 years of age because after losing my friend, moving in with my dad, and realizing how much had changed for me, and how much conditioning, like, I started reading my dad's textbooks. He's a psychologist then, studying, and I read up on social conditioning and self-monitoring, and I became aware of how, like, our names really influences who we think we are. And I was like, well, based on everything I've read here, I don't even think that I'm a who. It sounds like I'm more of a construct of my environment and myself and my genetics and my nurturing, my nature. So as a construct, I don't want to be like Jamie or James or some person that's limited. Like, yeah, I'm just ego. I am the mask. No, like, I'm just a puppet. I'm just a construct. I want a name that represents something that's adaptable, something that can always adapt to any moment in life. And at that point, I had to adapt. So I think that's when I called upon Phoenix as totem, because I'd gone from my mum to my dad, big shock. Only after 1 year of being reintroduced, and lost my only and best friend in the same month. So sorry, or are you? Okay, I'm coming now. I'm finishing up now. All right, gonna watch a movie. Gonna watch some Game of Thrones with my mom. But yeah, so I chose that time because it helped me just, be adaptive. I'm like, okay, I'm not just Jamie. I'm not this person. I'm a phoenix, and any moment I'll die and resurrect and be what I need to be. I'll always rise to the occasion, and just, yeah, And it's helped me since then, and kind of be centered in that awareness of those dynamics, and that truth that you got to find balance, and sometimes you got to allow things within you and even without you to fade out, and to also generate in, you know what I mean, and grow into your life. So I hope you enjoyed. Hope you got something from this, and I'm gonna leave love and leave you right there. And thanks for watching. I'll catch you around next time. So peace out, guys, and thanks for watching.